Okay, and we're live. Um, and I didn't advertise this, so I don't expect any viewers, although Susan might pop over and watch. I don't know. But let's go ahead and for the people who may catch us on YouTube just through randomly browsing through things, this is going to be a interview that is going to be part of tomorrow night's episode of the Polite Society podcast. I think we're ready to go. Rick, you are the owner, correct, of Firearms Academy or Firearms? It's the Detroit Firearms Academy or Firearms Academy of Detroit.
I was a little, what's the word? Well, I wanted to have my name in the actual name of the organization, so it's actually Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit.
Rick's
and I run a
Firearms.
gun rights advocacy site in Detroit, which is called Legally Armed in Detroit.
Okay. I'm going to write that down because I will never, ever, ever, ever remember all that.
Well, you know,
you need to visit his site more, Paul.
I know it.
The blog is usually easy to remember. My catchphrase is Rick wants you to get laid, legally armed in Detroit. That's usually easy to recall. But if you don't spell the acronym out, you might get some interesting site instead of mine.
Yeah.
I want to get laid in Detroit. You will be in the list, I know that, but you might not be in the top 500. And given that about 1 million things would show up, it might be hard to find. Oh, that's sad.
So that's Rick's Firearms Academy of Detroit.
Correct. That is my official training website. My rights advocacy site is Legally Armed in Detroit.
Okay. Are we ready to go live then?
Yeah.
Well, we're live. We're live, but we're ready to start actually cutting the interview for the show. Okay. Okay. I'll bring us in, coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. Joining us tonight, Rick Ector. Rick, of course, the owner of Rick's Firearms Academy of Detroit, and with Legally Armed in Detroit. Rick, thanks for joining. Lots of defensive gun use stories coming out of Detroit in recent days and weeks. Can't say I'm really surprised because honestly, there's a bit of a problem with crime there, but I'm rather pleased that people are standing up and are using the Second Amendment for what it was intended.
Yeah, so am I. What's really interesting is that this recent spike in self-defense shootings, I mean, it happened almost on cue, right after our police chief, police department, really made some statements that made shockwaves all over the country. He essentially stated that prior to his appointment as chief of police here in Detroit, he had learned in the state of Maine, where he was a police chief, that it's a good thing for good Americans to have firearms and that they can actually drive down violent crime statistics. And it seemed like right on cue, man, we had this recent string of 4 self-defense shootings over the last week and a half, you know, and they, you know, in of themselves were headlines. Let's see, the very first incident that occurred about a week and a half ago. You guys probably heard about this story where the mom was at home with her kids and there was a home invasion. It was captured on home video. These guys actually kicked in the door. She went and grabbed what many in New York would consider a assault weapon. You know, this was a firearm that definitely would have been banned there. It was a Kel-Tec carbine rifle, and she successfully used it to drive these guys off of her property. So that story in and of itself went viral. And then we had 3 subsequent stories, man. There was one lady who was attacked by 2 armed guys in the driveway. She did one of those classic self-defense moves you hear about in those advanced classes, man, where they take the keys and toss them and distract the guy, and then she pulled from concealment and shot one guy 7 times, and he died, and then the other guy was with him. He just took off and split. And then after that, there was 2 guys that had the audacity to break in someone's house with a tire iron, of all things, and that homeowner shot both intruders. One died and the other took off. They don't know if he ever received medical treatment or not. He's still at large. And then there was the incident just 2 or 3 nights ago in which a woman was essentially pleading with this guy not to come into her window after he had broken it out with a brick. And she said, "Hey, I have a gun, don't come in here." And he was so emboldened and brazen to come on in, and he came in and she shot him as he came in, and he died as well. So we've had 4 self-defense shootings, we've had 3 fatalities, a couple of guys got away, a couple of guys got shot and got away. So, you know, all, you know, for self-defense stories and for gun rights advocates that welcome the idea that citizens are taking it upon themselves to exercise more active role in their environment. It was really a good period, and I really hope that as crime continues to be out of control, that more and more citizens are emboldened to do the same thing to protect themselves, and hopefully we'll reach a tipping point one day when we'll actually see some decreases in crime.
Well, yeah, I certainly hope that when people or when criminals get the word that by being criminals they are quite literally risking their life, that they get the picture and decide to find another line of work.
Well, yeah, being a criminal is inherently dangerous, and if you caught the stats on those stories that I relayed to you, 3 of those would-be victims were actually women. So, you know, it just confirms that there is a victim selection process by which the bad guys use to select victims. They want someone that they feel that is relatively safe to victimize with, while, you know, minimizing potential injury to them. And contrary to that selection process, a number of these bad guys were shot and killed. So apparently they need to readjust their formula. Hopefully they don't, and we still continue to see some similar results in the future.
Hey, Rick, I mean, to me it's great news for gun owners successfully defended themselves and did not become victims. Always great news. But then the police chief said, you know, they did exactly the right thing. He supported them. Now, my local sheriff, he doesn't talk that way, so that's encouraging.
Well, it's encouraging, and I think there's an explanation for that too. You know, in all the years that I've been a instructor, gun rights advocate here, we have not seen that type of attitude from a police chief. We're in a very unique set of circumstances right now. You all are probably all aware that the city of Detroit is currently in bankruptcy under the control of an emergency financial manager. Well, yes. Our new incoming mayor that just took office in January, he doesn't have any control or jurisdiction over the police department at all. The police chief was hired by and reports directly to the emergency financial manager. So I'm not certain that our EFM or financial manager has a lot of law enforcement experience. I think he picked James Craig for that position, and it's pretty much, you know, I'm not going to say that he's giving him free rein, but I'm sure that he's allowing him to do his job without a lot of interference. And luckily for us, those of us that believe in self-defense and the Second Amendment, he happens to share some of the beliefs that we have. And one of those key principle beliefs is that the fact that good law-abiding citizens with guns are no danger to anyone other than a criminal. And, you know, I can support that.
Yeah. Are you other than getting a pat on the back and a high five at the coffee shop, are you seeing more students come in, or do your students comment on it? What other changes have you seen?
I'll tell you, just in this past week and a half period, man, it's been an explosion in terms of interest, in terms of the number of calls. You know, I'm on social media all over the place. You know, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm on Facebook, got a big presence there, 10,000 followers on YouTube, 10,000 followers on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Blogger, email distribution lists. I've been fielding like an explosion in terms of volume of people contacting me, during this recent spike in self-defense shootings. I really truly believe that people are now being encouraged even more so to explore, getting a concealed carry license and actually buying a gun and carrying it. And especially, the biggest interest, the biggest demographic that's showing an interest in doing these things are women. So, I'm getting women across all demographics that are interested in learning more about what they can do to be safe.
Other than a successful self-defense event, finding out that they want to come take classes from you is the best news I've heard today.
Well, and I always, there are certain realities to a self-defense shooting. We tell our students, yeah, there's a chance that you may be injured. We also balance that with the fact that the quicker an incident is resolved, the better off it's going to be in your favor.
Right.
One of the other things that we tell them, is that your best chance of defending yourself is with a gun. Statistics bear that out. If someone attacks you, your best option is to defend yourself with a gun. That beats all the other things that are out there in terms of talking, reasoning, yelling, screaming, begging. All those things carry negative consequences relative to the actual act of defending yourself with a gun. And you know what? There's a chance you might be hurt, but you know what? I'd rather take a chance than no chance. And in the self-defense cases I mentioned earlier, none of the would-be victims were injured at all.
Right.
Decisive, quick, fast action, and they actually doled out a bit of punishment from there.
Right. Right.
Well, if I could, Rick, one question I had for you is I've seen a lot of your social media lately has been focused a lot on when people are purchasing gas in the Detroit area, and that they're particularly vulnerable when they're doing that. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, definitely. Hands down, the two most dangerous places, especially here in the city of Detroit, are most assuredly gas stations and parking lots. Parking lots, probably, hands down number one. And I teach people in my training classes, it really boils down to awareness. And, you talk about, okay, you definitely don't want to be unaware. But truly, you want to be aware of your environment, who's there, who's watching you, who's surveying you, who's thinking about, possibly trying to learn more about you and maybe launch an attack against you. But I tell students it goes even deeper than that. Rather than just be merely concerned with just straight up awareness, you can even go into situational awareness. You could say, okay, I'm at a gas station. Well, what expected activities do you expect to see at a gas station? You get answers like pull into a bay, operate the machine, go make some purchases, maybe do some stuff under the hood, check the oil, look at your filter, put some coolant, antifreeze, windshield wiper fluid, put air in your tires, clean out your car, wash your windshield. These are things that people are expected to do at a gas station. Now, if there happens to be someone there that's not engaging in these activities, you have to ask yourself, well, why in the world are they there? No one is anywhere without a reason. And if they're there for not those enumerated aforementioned activities that I just mentioned, they have to be suspects in your mind that they have to potentially be up to activities which we would equate to, being no good. So awareness is definitely the key. Where don't be looking into your cell phone or your tablet while pumping your gas. Be paying attention. Don't present a easy target for a bad guy, and be situationally aware. And I even tell people, half tank is the new empty. If you're at half, it's time to go get gas so you can pass that gas station that has all the people ordering at it.
Rick, those comments sound a lot like the comments I heard right around Christmas shopping. We've all got presents, our heads are down, our arms are full, we're shopping at a mall, bad weather, late at night. Well, I guess that's the same as a gas station in Detroit, isn't it?
It's the same deal. You know, I think even worse, you know, in the holiday period because here locally, crime spikes from the Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all the way up till Christmas Eve. And, you know, people not paying attention. People are in a festive mood. Like you said, they're bogged down with packages. They probably have a great deal of cash on them. You know, it's just a great opportunity to be a criminal, you know, during that time period.
Yeah. Yep. Paul?
I'm sorry, I had my mic muted. I'm sorry.
Well, that was a brilliant comment.
I'm telling you.
Right, he's on mute.
Well, yeah, I apologize. I had a little bit of background noise going here. I didn't want to come out over the air. But we're coming up on the end of the segment here, Rick. Before we take off, I do want to ask if I could I have you plug your firearms training again and talk a little bit about your blog?
Okay, great. Yeah, if there's anyone out there that's interested in taking on a more active role in their personal protection and they happen to be local to Southeast Michigan, I invite you definitely to reach out to me. You can reach me in a variety of social media platforms. First place I'm going to direct you to is to my official website, DetroitCCW.com. I have a gun rights advocacy site which is entitled LegallyArmedInDetroit.com. You can catch me on most social media platforms under the ID Detroit CCW, whether that is LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Photo Bucket, YouTube, you name it. If people are there, I'm already there waiting on you. So with respect to my gun rights advocacy book, I have a ton of features out there on the website. You know, I do original articles as it relates to responsible firearm ownership, gun rights. We do features such as Name That Safety Violation. I just finished a month-long tribute to freedom fighters and our tribute to Black history. Personal protection tips. I have over 150 personal protection tips listed on the blog. I'm going to turn that into an ebook at some time when I get free time, whenever that is. But I invite your people to come check me out. LegallyArmedInDetroit.com, Detroit CCW, and catch me on Facebook, Rick Ector or Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for joining us today, and hope to talk to you again soon, man.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure, and I like that I'm in touch with you guys on Facebook, so I get to keep my eyes on what you guys are doing.
You bet. All right. Hang on, everybody. We've got the DGU segment coming up right after this. Okay.